What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 15, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. This should be a great game. I don't know who to pick in this game. There should be some fireworks in this one. So at the quarterback position, I like both the quarterbacks on the slate here. For the Kansas City Chiefs, you got Patrick Mahomes, who's averaging 22.3 fantasy points per game on the season. And he's getting an average of 4 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 59% owned, projected at 21.8 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 12,000 DraftKings salary. Now, Vegas thinks there's going to be 51.5 points scored in this game, with the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 5. Now, the LA Chargers have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're pretty good against opposing quarterbacks, and Patrick Mahomes has scored 20, 14, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games. I think this game is going to be a shootout. So both of these quarterbacks are in play. So I like Patrick Mahomes here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, now for the Chargers, you got Justin Herbert, and the Kansas City Chiefs have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. So a much better matchup for Justin Herbert, and he's averaging 25.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.7 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 55% owned, projected at 22.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,800 DraftKings salary, and Justin Herbert has scored 25, 29, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So just on paper, Justin Herbert looks like the better play here. You're going to save 1,200 DraftKings salary. He's in a better matchup. He's got a higher average fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire the past 3 games. His ownership is going to be a little bit lower, and he's got a higher projected points for tonight. And with the Chargers looking to be trailing by 3, that means it'd probably be more of a passing game script for the Chargers. And also, their running back, Austin Eckler, is questionable. He was limited at practice, and they've got all their wide receivers healthy. So I do think this is a great spot for Justin Herbert here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So as I just mentioned, Austin Eckler has been limited in practice. Well, he was limited in practice on Wednesday. Now, we'll just have to keep up with the injury news. Most likely, he is going to play, but always a little hesitant when a guy is limited at practice. You don't know if he's going to get limited reps or what's going on there. So keep an eye on that news. But Austin Eckler, if he is a go, he's averaging 21.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 12.4 rush attempts per game and 5.8 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 43% owned, projected at 18.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's 10,200 DraftKings salary, and he scored 16, 19, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 12, 14, and 12 rush attempts on top of 4, 5, and 8 pass targets. So he's quite involved in the passing game as well. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they have a middle-of-the-pack defense defending opposing running backs. So if he is a go here tonight and he's not going to be on limited reps or anything, I like Austin Eckler here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Now, if Austin Eckler does not play, or if they say he's going to have limited repetitions or limited touches, take a look at Justin Jackson from the LA Chargers. And Justin Jackson, he scored 5 fantasy points last week off of 9 rush attempts and 1 pass target. So 10 touches, that's not too bad. And he's going to be about 9% owned, only projected at 4 fantasy points. But if Austin Eckler is out or limited, I expect that projection to go up to 10 plus fantasy points. And he's only 2,000 DraftKings salary. So he is a value play option if Austin Eckler is going to be limited, or if he's out, he's going to be a smash play here tonight, a must-own player. So just keep an eye on that injury news. But either way, I think I like Justin Jackson as a value play, high risk, high reward play here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, now for the Kansas City Chiefs, a couple of running backs to consider here. The top running back for the Chiefs is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And the nice thing about these two running backs is they got a great matchup here tonight. The LA Chargers are giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has averaged 13.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 12.6 rush attempts per game and 2.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 81% of the snaps, going to be about 30% owned, projected at 12.8 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 7,000 DraftKings salary. So great matchup here, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire has scored 19, 11, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 10, 14, and 12 rush attempts on top of 3, 3, and 2 pass targets. So I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, now the other running back for the Kansas City Chiefs is Darrell Williams. And he's averaging 11.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8.2 rush attempts per game and 3.5 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 29% owned, projected at 9.4 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only 3,200 DraftKings salary. So I think that makes him a pretty interesting value play here in this matchup. And Darrell Williams has scored 13, 11, and 4 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 2, 5, and 5 rush attempts on top of 3, 3, and 3 pass targets. So the volume come down quite a bit from his season average the past 3 games, but still getting between 5 and 8 touches. So could get 5 to 8 touches here. I do expect this to be a run-heavy offense for the Kansas City Chiefs, just considering the LA Chargers have had such a hard time stopping the run throughout the season. So I like both of these running backs on the slate. Both of them are relatively low salary. So I like Darrell Williams as a value play here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the stud on the slate is Tyreek Hill from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, both these teams have been pretty good versus opposing wide receivers, but Tyreek Hill has averaged 19.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 10.1 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 78% of the snaps, touches the ball 20% of that time, and he's going to be about 53% owned, projected at 18.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,400 DraftKings salary, and he scored 12, 4, and 20 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 4, 5, and 11 pass targets. So I like Tyreek Hill here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, now for the Chargers, you got Mike Williams, and he's averaging 15.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.6 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 79% of the snaps, going to be about 40% owned, projected at 13.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,400 DraftKings salary, and he scored 12, 19, and 8 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 6, 7, and 8 pass targets. So I like Mike Williams here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now the stud for the LA Chargers, you got Keenan Allen, and he's averaging 18.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 10.3 pass targets per game. Now he didn't play last week, but it looks like he's good to go this week. He's on the field for 88% of the snaps, going to be about 50% owned, projected at 17.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 9,400 DraftKings salary, and he scored 22 and 16 fantasy points in his last 2 games off of 8 and 10 pass targets. So I like Keenan Allen here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. Our NBA tools are awesome. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, now taking a look at the value plays at the wide receiver position, my favorite value play on the slate is Joshua Palmer. Well, I actually have 2 value plays that I like here. We just got to remember that Keenan Allen is coming back. So guys like Joshua Palmer and Jalen Guyton, they might not get as many targets this game as they did last game. So just consider that. But they are both pretty low salary. But anyways, back to Joshua Palmer for the Chargers. He scored 18 fantasy points last week off of 7 pass targets. He's going to be about 10% owned, and he's only 2,200 DraftKings salary. Now, like I said, with no Keenan Allen last week, he got 7 pass targets. So I'm not expecting him to get 7 pass targets here this week. But if he can get 3 to 5 pass targets in this game for 2,200 DraftKings salary, I think he's got some upside in this one. So I like Joshua Palmer as a value play here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So Jalen Guyton from the LA Chargers, he scored 18 and 19 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks off of 3 and 4 pass targets. Now, he's only going to be about 6% owned because he's 4,800 DraftKings salary. So quite a bit of salary to pay for a guy that's only going to get 3 or 4 pass targets. And what are the chances that he continues his touchdown run? Probably pretty low with Keenan Allen back. But I guess you got to consider him because he's been pretty hot the past couple of weeks. So you can consider Jalen Guyton here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, for the Kansas City Chiefs, for value plays at the wide receiver position, you got Mecole Hardman, who's averaging 7.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.8 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 11% owned, projected at 7.1 fantasy points here tonight. He's 5,000 DraftKings salary. Last 3 games, not looking great. Only scored 8, 2, and 5 fantasy points off of 2, 1, and 3 pass targets. So volume is pretty low there, but he can get it done if he scores a touchdown. So I like Mecole Hardman as a value play here versus the LA Chargers. And the real value play on the slate here for the Kansas City Chiefs is Byron Pringle. And he's averaging 6.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.9 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 30% owned, projected at 6.4 fantasy points here tonight. And that's because he's only 2,600 DraftKings salary. He scored 4, 2, and 5 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 1, 4, and 2 pass targets. So nothing crazy the past few weeks, but he will get some opportunity in this game at a low price tag. So I like Byron Pringle as a value play here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, now moving on to the tight end position. I just got a feeling about this play, although I had a feeling about this pick last week and he was a dud. He's been a dud for the past 2 weeks, but he finds himself in a great matchup again this week, and his salary has come down because he hasn't really been performing. So I like Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the LA Chargers, who have the middle of the pack defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So Travis Kelce has averaged 15.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8.4 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 83% of the snaps, going to be about 46% owned, projected at 16.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's 8,600 DraftKings salary. He scored 6, 6, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 4, 8, and 8 pass targets. So despite the past couple of weeks not being productive, I do think he has a great game here tonight, and he is one of my favorite plays on the slate. So I like Travis Kelce here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, now for the Chargers, the tight end to play is Jared Cook, and he's averaging 8.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.9 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 20% owned, projected at 8.5 fantasy points here tonight. He's 5,400 DraftKings salary, and the Kansas City Chiefs give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So he's got a favorable matchup, and he scored 9, 6, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 5, 4, and 5 pass targets. So I like Jared Cook here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.